Evosys webinar. Today we're going to be talking about Oracle Planning Budgeting Cloud Service and the current culture of using Excel spreadsheets. My name's Dennis Turner. I'm an Evosys Program Manager. We're going to be joined today by Mike Waite and Yash Binde. Yash is with me today and he has an open invitation to jump in at any time if I sort of miss out on anything. It's a fairly simple agenda today. It's really talking about the culture of using Excel spreadsheets in the budgeting and planning process. We're going to be talking about business challenges and how planning and budgeting is transformed by a product like PBCS. We'll probably touch on the business benefits, and then Mike will come in towards the end to talk about the Evosys offering. Now, there's a couple of sort of truisms on this particular slide, and this is based on a survey conducted a few years ago. And I think we'll all agree that managing businesses is a very complex process today, and we need to sort of eke out all the benefits we can from every possible feature of our planning and budgeting process. From this particular spreadsheet, this particular survey, there's a sort of whopping 89% of the organisations that were surveyed currently use spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets in particular, to run their whole planning and budgeting process, whereas only about 11% use products like PBCS. Now, I'm going to make a little bit of a confession at the moment. I mean, I've been using Excel spreadsheets for a very long time, over 20 years, and there's a certain sort of addiction to them, I believe. And there's something very sort of personal when you use Excel spreadsheets, that you download data, you start fiddling around with it in the Excel spreadsheet, and it becomes very sort of unique to you. And part of the problem that I found in using Excel spreadsheets is that you become very, very attached to that piece of data analysis, and you find it quite hard to sort of break the bonds. Now, when organisations were asked about using things like Excel spreadsheets to run their budgeting and planning process, the challenges they came back to us with were around accuracy. Now, I've kind of hinted at that by talking about downloading information from the data source, populating your Excel spreadsheet, perhaps carrying out some quite complex manipulation, running macros, complex functions, and so on and so forth. And there's only so many times that you can do that before you get it wrong. There's sort of just a cutting and pasting and understanding the results. I mean, sometimes I could pass an Excel spreadsheet to Yash, and he would have to sort of take my word that the result in the bottom right-hand corner is correct. Otherwise, he'd have to go through and check absolutely every aspect of the Excel spreadsheet and what underpins it. The other thing is time. I think we all appreciate how much time that we can spend just running quite a simple process using Excel spreadsheets, and part of that time refers back to the accuracy. We may spend quite a lot of effort just to make sure that we've got everything right, and we may even have to ask someone to have a look to make sure that we've got it right. And that sort of brings in collaboration. The whole planning and the budgeting process requires working with colleagues and partners to make sure that you've got all the information correct, and that you will be moving forward when you do your final reports and when you bring your budgets together, that they're going to be accurate and stable. Security. By just using Excel spreadsheets, we're using a Microsoft product which is easy to attach to emails, and the temptation just to share it with someone just for them to check or perhaps to validate and so on, makes it quite easy and quite possible to share that information with the wrong person. So security is always an issue when we're using something like an Excel spreadsheet. And cost, I suppose that we try to pretend that using this kind of device for planning and budgeting makes us feel like it's just part of our day-to-day business, and we don't think about the actual day-to-day cost and resource commitment. I've just been asked to check that everyone can hear me on the broadcast. I think there's a feature where you can raise your hands. So we're okay? So when we talk about the use of Excel spreadsheets in the budget making process, what we found from the surveys that were carried out recently is there's a sort of whopping 4 to 5 months of time expended by an organisation creating the budget. And you can only imagine that that process has to be honed and developed by the organisation to make sure that it's slick and works properly. But even so, there's a sense that people are running their own agendas and their own timelines when they're producing these documents. And there's every opportunity and every chance that what will happen is people will get out of phase, perhaps forget one of the parts that they should produce, and so on and so forth. I think the alarming thing for most managers, and the managers that we talk to when they're doing implementations, is the almost obsession with the amount of time that they spend during the budgeting and planning process, and it almost becomes the central part of their job rather than the sort of strategic thinking and planning and analysis. The figure at the end is an average figure spent on these activities. I mean, I would suspect that's a lot higher in most organisations. The part at the bottom of the file is quite interesting. This kind of plays back to what I was saying about managers spending a lot of time with this sort of budget making process. Is that they seem to spend more of their time in the activity itself rather than in the analysis. And I think good practice would suggest that it should be flipped on its head, and only 21% of the time is spent actually producing the budget. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the activities in spreadsheets. We've kind of talked about sort of the copy and pasting activities and how that sort of affects the accuracy of product, sharing emails and memos and what that does in terms of security and the rigor of the process, and manual data collection. We have to sort of rely on that manual data collection as being accurate and from the right source. On the other hand, when we automate these processes, these integrated data load tools are used, so we know we're getting the information from the right place. Workflow engines, what they do is they drive the process. They produce alerts for managers and so on, and we'll see that later in the presentation. And the templates can be flexible. They do allow you to establish the templates around the protocols and processes that the organisation feels comfortable with. So Oracle Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service has a number of features, and I'll allow you to just sort of look at the slide. Okay, what we're going to look at in a second is a quick run through of sort of like the day-to-day actions of someone using PBCS, a manager using PBCS, and we'll be viewing some of these features. So what we have on this page is the landing page, and I think the first thing that Oracle users, for example, will comment on is it's a much more sort of modern look and feel of the page. This is a page set up for an administrator, so there's quite a lot of functionality on the page, and you may find that you would just get a dashboard. So the dashboards are reports and information that's important to you. So you would make sure that is set up for your own requirements. Tasks, the activities that you'll see that sort of drives the whole process and data entry. Some of these other cells might not be used by you, but they may be used by administrators. This one down in the bottom left-hand corner is a sort of learning tool where information on PVCS can be held, and this is a feature that can be sort of used. On this side, this is a common feature across PVCS, so it's task-driven, and you can see the activities here that I would have to carry out today. I can also look at recent, and there's some favorites. So if we click into the tasks that I should be completing today, you can see that there's sort of pay monitoring, revenue monitoring, review and forecasting. So we can also look at the recent activities. So some of these activities are carried out by me over the last few days. I may want to revisit those before I start my work today. And the ones that I've sort of set up with stars are my favourites. So there are a number of activities that I undertake on a very regular basis. Rather than have to go through all of the task lists, I can set them up as favourites and refer to them sort of quite quickly. So if we go into the task list by using the icon, you can see that all of the tasks that I would be involved in over the period will be about 15 tasks. Now, not all of these tasks need to be carried out by me, and I may be able to delegate those to members of staff and administrators. But you can see here that they then get broken down by whether they're incomplete. There we go, there are the activities that I need to perform today. There are 6 activities that I need to complete and perform during the week. And there's going to be a couple of sort of regular activities that will happen in the future. There's a list of things that I've actually completed. And a lot of the information that happens in here is driven by these end dates and start dates. So that's how they become part of the to-do list for today and for tomorrow. So one of the other features that the PVCS allows us to do is when we're in some of these tasks, I think it's quite common with managers where they actually only visit some of these activities infrequently. Sometimes it might be just annually and so on. So what you can do is inside the instructions area, you can put lots of information, even step by step, of what that manager needs to do. Or as in this case, what we've done is introduce a YouTube video, and this is a very popular way of helping managers to understand what the activities are. Our experience with managers, and to some extent sort of junior staff, is that they become sort of quite anxious when they have to revisit a piece of functionality that they're not very familiar with. And by introducing things like UPKs or YouTube videos, it reduces that anxiety, and they feel quite confident to carry out the activity. So what we're looking at here is a whole group of activities, but there is another way of looking at the activities in terms of the key things that need to be carried out. So if I was looking at the sort of forecasting activities, when I do the drop down on the all tasks list, I can go into the monthly forecasting. Now what this sort of says to me is these are key activities that I need to undertake, and these are my sort of top 5, as it were. And so what I would be needing to do is to look at the revenue forecast profiles, pay monitoring, revenue monitoring, and review forecasts. So when we go into this page, this allows us to look at the profile and the rules that sit behind the forecast, and you can see that these activities can be done based on previous forecasts, in this case overtime, previous forecasts, lump sums, actual years to dates, and so on. So what this allows me to do as a manager is to review that this is the appropriate way that I want to proceed with the forecast profiling, and if I'm happy with that, or if I want to change any of this, I can just sort of go to complete, then save any of the changes I've made, and then I'll click on go to the next activity. Now, this is an area that will be close to many people's heart in business, because staff costs are one of the major costs in running an organisation, and we need to be able to be on top of the of these costs. And so in PBCS, this is held in a way that makes it very easy for managers to understand their profiles. So we've got information here about all of the staff in the organisation, and at the moment, for example, we've got 150 area sales managers, full-time equivalents, and at the moment we're showing that we've got 5 vacancies. If we drill down to the next level, this takes us down to a greater level of detail about staff in that particular group. So this doesn't show the whole group, it's just a snapshot. But what's useful about this is it helps me to understand against each member of staff in that cadre if they are employed or being planned to be employed by the organisation for the whole year between April and March, and it gives me an idea of what the actuals and forecasts are against each member of staff for my planning processes. If you look at this third one down, Connell, it's anticipated that this member of staff won't be staying for the whole year, and so the system now can take into account any adjustments not only to the salary but to NI contributions or pension contributions and so on, and that will be held in the system in the background. This is also an area where if it happens that, say, this Annabelle has told you that she is going to be leaving in the not too distant future, you can adjust this by changing the end date, and then the actuals and forecasts will change. So this is an area where we've got much more sort of detail about the actual expenditure in the organisation. What you'll notice straight away is some of these are greyed out and some of them are just highlighted in white. What that means is that the greyed out areas are locked down. These are actuals, and you can't actually make changes in those areas. In the current period, in the August monitoring, we can look at these figures, and if we need to make any changes, we can make some adjustments by using this quite simple toolkit. What you'll recognise here are quite a few of the tools that you would see in any Microsoft product, so there's sort of cutting and pasting and highlighting tools. If you were to make some adjustments to salaries, for example, that you wanted to detail, what you could do is attach the documentation to that particular cell, so that there's a clear understanding from anyone else who comes along why those changes were made. This is one of those little speech bubbles that you can just attach. So there's just a clear comment that might need to be highlighted. This little clock is the audit trail, so there's always going to be a history of what's happened inside each one of these cells, so that information is not lost, and as an organisation you don't have to go back, search through a number of Excel spreadsheets to find out what has happened over previous periods. You can also make adjustments in any of these cells that are highlighted in white, or you can make a spread. So, for example, in this area here, if you wanted to sort of round it up to 150,000 and then spread it across the whole period, 12-month period, then you can use it using the spread tool. Lock is to ensure that any particular cell gets locked down completely, and undo, as you can imagine, is to undo any of the activities that were just carried out. So once those activities have happened and you're happy for it to go forward to approval, the PDCS engine drives the approval process. And what we have here is an area where we can run some activities to allow things around. If I wanted to delegate this this activity to someone, I can do that. If I'm a manager, for example, and Dennis T has gone off sick and someone needs to step in to take ownership of the activity, this is where we can do it. And also you can freeze the activity, and so no changes can be made going forward. Another area is in the owner. If you leave it in automatic, it goes through the normal approvals process and it will find its way up through the hierarchy. But what we've got here is a list of people that we could add it to. In this case, it's just Dylan. That happens to be the most senior person in the organisation and the person who could have overall approval. So it could be just catapulted forward directly to Dylan, or it goes through the normal approvals process. Okay, so what we see here is the real driver behind the approvals process. You can see, because it's highlighted in blue, it still sits with me as the current owner and ready to be approved. It will then move on to the head of service for review, and then on to the operations director. And there's Dylan, the current owner of the overall process. So that's the approvals process, and this is all, completely driven by the PDCS system. One of the areas that people are really interested in around these products is the way the reports are generated, and I'm just going to show you a simple example of how a balance sheet can be downloaded into a reports format, and it can look like this. One of the features of this is it's compatible with other Microsoft products, so you can just download this into a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document. But what's also very powerful about this is that it's completely drillable. So you can click on any of these cells and go back into the base data. And so if you're reporting on this at a committee meeting, for example, you can actually go back to the source data to explain exactly what's happening. Also, it means that when you come back, perhaps on your monthly reporting cycle, there's a familiar report in front of you, and you can drill back to a previous copy of this. Okay, so let me just. So that was a quick review of PDCS and how it functions. And so what we're finding is that organisations that adopt this kind of approach to planning and budgeting, they see quite substantial improvements in the time that they use in forecasting process, considerably less time gathering data, and more time released to do analysis. I'm going to ask Mike. Mike, are you there?
Yep. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can everyone else hear?
Okay, great. Okay. So thanks for that, Dennis. So I'm just now going to give you a quick overview of who Evosys are and what we do. So we're an Oracle partner. We're a platinum partner. We've been a partner since 2005. We have 85 cloud customers live and happily running, and 200 Oracle on-premise customers. So we've been operating since 2005. We're a global organisation. We're in 16 countries all over the world. We have 750 of our own consultants. They're all our own employees that do implementations. So we can move people around and we can get people to work on any project anywhere in the world to do these things. We're cloud pillar experts. We've done lots of these clouds, so we've got seven current, whatever it's called, ratio with Oracle. You'll see in the bottom boxes there, we're a platinum partner, we're cloud select as well, and we've won a few awards going forward over the last few years. So on to the next slide. So we don't just do one product, we do all the products with Oracle. So what we've got is we've got a lot of referenceable customers where we've done all the products. So we're not just doing PBCS or just doing HCM, we do the whole suite of products. You'll see in these boxes here that we've actually got lots of referenceable customers. So we're cloud specializations in every single one of the topics there. We've migrated people from all sorts of systems to Oracle. So we only do Oracle, that's all we do. So you'll see there we've migrated lots of people, we've done lots of upgrades and moved people across from all different sorts of systems across the whole of the world there. So on to the next slide. So again, we've got, as I said, we've got about 90 cloud references now that we've done across the world. And you'll see from the left-hand screen there that we've done it in just about every industry. So we're not just working in one particular industry, we're across all industries. And if you look in the dark sort of blue box there, it says what we've done in EMEA as opposed to APAC and North America. So you'll see the EMEA section is the biggest section. It's where we've got the most traction with Oracle at the moment and with customers. On the right-hand side, again, as I said, we've done lots of different products of Oracle. So you'll see there, again, the dark blue boxes in the middle is where we've done all the different products. So you'll see we've done there 43 HCM products, for example. So move on to the next slide. So again, in UK, we've got lots of references. So these are some of our references in UK. You'll recognise a lot of the names there as being organisations that you'll be familiar with. And as I said, we've done it across all the different products, ERP, HCM and PBCS. So you'll see there's 5 PBCS customers there, Barking and Dagenham, Brent, Camden, First Avenue and Durham County Council. One of the things we do with all our customers, we make them referenceable. So every one of our customers is a referenceable customer. So we make sure that when we're doing an implementation, the project goes well, the customer's happy, and we don't leave site until the customer's happy and they're using the system properly. So on to the next slide. So what we've got, as I said earlier, we've got about 750 of our own employees that we use to do implementations. So they're all certified and experienced in different products. So again, you'll see there we've got solution architects and consultants, a whole mixture across all the different products. So in PBCS, for example, we've got 45 consultants and 7 solution architects. So whichever system you want to think about implementing, we've got the people that actually help you and do this on site with you. In terms of our resource pool, we've got a mixture of on-site and off-site. It's one of the things that we used to do as a traditional approach. We used to do a lot more on-site. As we're going with the cloud, we do a lot more off-site now, and we do it remotely. So we have people on-site working very closely with the customer, but a lot of our work we can actually move to off-site, which makes it much more feasible. We actually did one project in Norway where we went live with a customer and nobody's actually ever been on site and nobody's ever met the customer. So it was a completely remote product where we implemented it completely remotely. Next slide. So we have our own implementation methodology which is very close to the Oracle methodology. So it makes it a very streamlined process. So when we start, we come in when we start and we work with you to make sure the product's all set up and going correctly at the beginning, and we take you through a project plan that takes you all the way through. So the design, the validation, the transition, the training, and the solution demonstration. So it's a whole process. We don't just come in and do it to you, we do it very much with you. So we like to work alongside you. We might like to make sure you understand the product so that when we leave site at the end of the project, you actually know and you feel comfortable with actually using the product as it goes forward. So next slide, I think that might be the last one. So we're going to go on to questions now. So I'm going to throw it open now. If anybody's got any questions or anybody wants to ask anything, then just, I'm not sure how you do it. You click on the button or can you just open it up so that everybody can speak now? I'll throw it back to the organizer now to pull this.
Anybody wants to ask any questions can raise their hands and type in the questions. So the first question we have received is, does PBCS or a planning and budgeting system require Oracle application as a background information or an ERP system? The answer is no. PBCS can be implemented standalone. You can have any system like SAP, Microsoft, or any other system, or even homegrown system, which can then link back with the PBCS, and the planning and budgeting can be done along within the PBCS. The second question is, do I need to make a lot of changes every time if I want to make any changes in the process? The answer is no. The system is created and maintained in such a flexible manner that it is capable of adapting to the new business requirement of the clients as and when they change it. Because we understand that the world is very dynamic and businesses are also very dynamic in a sense that the things which are applicable today may not be applicable tomorrow. So the entire design of the system has been kept in a manner that can adapt to your changed business requirements. The third question is, do I need an additional licenses if I want to do an integrations between Microsoft products and PBCS? The answer is no. Microsoft, what you need to do is you just need to download the plugin, which is called the Smart View. Once you do that, system will then, with the help of URL, system will then integrate between your Microsoft products and your planning and budgeting system. So what will happen is, if you are there in Excel, again, I mean, Dennis has touched upon a love of Excel, but if I am in Excel now and if I want to integrate PBCS, I can actually link that back with my PBCS. Whatever forms we have seen or what Dennis has shown us, I can have all those forms in the Excel version of that, and I can integrate with that. I can update all my information in Excel, and there will be a button called Upload, and it will sync all my information with Excel and with the system. What sort of cost are you looking at for implementing something like that, which you have demoed for a UK business? Now, typically with the on-premise implementations, we are looking at a period of anywhere between 6 to 8 months of time for implementation, and hence the associated cost. With this cloud information technology, things have shortened quite a bit. Now we have been able to complete the entire implementation within a period of anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks to 12 weeks, depending upon the complexity of the client. That reduces the overall cost of the implementation and the ownership of the solution to a greater extent. So we have been able to implement planning and budgeting solutions, but you have seen anywhere between say 50,000 to 80,000, 90,000 figure. So that purely would depend upon what level of complexity do we have in our business, and accordingly that will work for us. One more question we have is, what's your experience of text determination in R12, and how easy or difficult to implement if Oracle has been set up on a text code basis? I'm not sure what exactly the person mean by this particular question, but what I can say is we have implemented the solutions into public and a private sector both, with Oracle and without Oracle. So what we have done is we have actually picked up the various level of information from your ERP, and then we can determine what level of changes which is required. So say for example, from a text perspective, if there are additional changes which needs to be done within planning and budgeting, we can create very easily the rules which then cater to those requirements. So I'm not exactly sure on the questions, but if I have not answered your questions, can you please describe it a little bit more for me to answer that. One more question I have got is, where does OBCS bring most value? I think it is PBCS, bring most value to public sector organizations which have very different financial goals. So See, planning and budgeting is only not for the purpose of commercial organizations. Now, see, at the end of the day, everybody, whether you're in a public or a private sector, you need to be aware about your cost implications. How much do you owe? How much is you can spend? How much you've already spent? And what do you think you will be spending in coming months? Now, with the increasing budget cuts and the pressure which the organization in public sector are facing, we have seen more and more adoption of this technology within the public sector, wherein they have got less people to do either a similar amount of work or more amount of services. I'll give you an example. Say one of our clients is Brent or Buckingham Economy, etc. Previously, the financial advisors were used to work on preparations of the budgets, preparation of the monitoring, discussing that with the end users and etc. And they were not able to spend that level of time and energy in analyzing whether what they've done is correct or not, or if there are any rectifications, chances in terms of the change in the business which would save money was given due importance, or they had enough time to do that. With this technology, wherein the bulk of the work has been passed over to the cost managers, the financial partners now can spend a good amount of time in understanding, analyzing what is the position, and then work with the business owners or the cost center managers to actually drive the benefits within their business to ultimately achieve the cost savings or the revenue increase. The next question I have is, can you set up the rules within the forecast process such as that being equal to the current month's billing? Does it also allow the setup of the global assumptions such as the inflations or a pay rise? The absolute short answer is yes, and I'll explain now. So within the process, what I can actually do is I can actually determine what are my forecasting rules. Now, when you look at the demonstration of the product, the first task which Dennis did as part of the forecast monitoring was the assumptions. What is the assumption of my salaries? What is the assumption of my pensions and etc.? Now, it can be for expenditure. Similarly, it can be for revenue. Now, within the revenue, I can say this is the amount which I'm gaining on a monthly basis, which should be then passed on to my debt, which will then drive my cash flow statement. So I can easily do that. The second point of the question is the inflations and etc. Now, what you can also do is within the system is you can actually derive the entire system into multiple parts. So I can say my salary increase is increasing by 1% as in inflation. My pension cost is increasing by 2% of inflation. There are certain contracts which I enter. So say for example, if I'm into a long-term computer management or an IT management contract with say Capita or anybody which has got an inflation clause of 2.5%. So in that particular case, those contracts will then be derived at 2.5% of the variable cost. So again, system has a capability of understanding the individual inflation rate for specific expenditure, or it can drive all the expenditures within that particular category, which can be, again, as I said, it can be for salaries as one inflation rate, or the repairs and maintenance can be another inflation rate, etc., etc. So system will be able to manage all of that. Just there are a couple of questions I think I've missed. Okay. So one more question, sir, I have here is, if people are still continue to use Excel even after having PVCS, what is the security level and etc., and how fast will that be still impacted? So even though you're going to use Excel, because of the plugin which I talked about, which is called the Smart View, all your security will be driven by the system. So if I'm logging into Smart View or in Excel, as soon as I want to integrate with the system, it will ask me to log in. As soon as I log in the system, so even though I'm in Excel, it will ask me to log in, which will go and connect to my planning and budgeting system, and will authenticate my users, and it will also derive all my security rules. So the things which I can do within the system will only be things which I can do in Excel. If I am not able to access certain cost centers, which is part of my system, I won't be able to do that in Excel. The second point is the forms which you have seen in the system, that will be exactly the same forms which are available in the Excel. So I won't be modifying, or even if I modify those forms, I won't be able to change anything within those forms. So I can play around with the figures, but then if I try and modify those forms and etc., system will not allow me to do that. So again, there is an additional level of control. Even if you are going to use Excel, system will still stop you doing things which you as an organization do not want your users to do it. One more question I have got is around security and about people who are leaving the organizations and how that will be impacted. Or if somebody goes on immediate level, how does it work? So in case of the, if I go back to the approval cycle which Danish has just shown you, in that case there was a concept called taking of ownership. Now say for example I'm working for Danish. While coming to office, met with an accident, and I'm in hospital now. Now, there is a budgeting process which has to be completed, or a monitoring process which has to be completed. What Dennis can do is Dennis can just take the ownership from me and do the work for me, and then can submit it. So till the time when I was working, it will show me everything against me. As soon as Dennis has taken over, system will show that Dennis has taken over, and then system will track all the amendments which is done by Dennis against his name. So again, there is a very clear definition of the responsibility in terms of who has done what and who has to be responsible for what. The second thing is, now if I say there was a planned leave, I'm supposed to go on a planned leave, so what I can do is I can set up all the out of office requests and everything within the system, then the system will drive my details in terms of, if there is any notification coming to me, it will either go to somebody else if I've designated. Now they can just take an action or take in the ownership depending upon what setup we do within the system. I think there are a few more questions, but I think looking at the time, I think we are just about to finish now. So I'll hand it over to Dennis again for the conclusion remark. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I found the question very interesting, particularly around security, which is one of the things we touched on when we talked about Excel, and I'm sure we must all appreciate how loose it can be, security can be when we're using Excel and Word and so on. I'd just like to thank you for coming along today, and hopefully we'll have another session soon. Thank you very much.